through stadium walls.
Gotcha. I think we're okay. Let's just talk about it. Let's try to keep it at 10 minutes. It's 2 o'clock right now. Let's try to go to 2:10. And let's just shoot the shit like we always do. Ready when you are. Hello, and welcome to No Expectations Video Store. This is a very, very exciting episode. I'm Ben.
I'm James.
And I'm Max. Actually, I'm a movie trailer, but I'm behind the movie trailer.
There he is. He's an Aston Martin. Anyway, so today we are talking about the much anticipated No Time to Die, the final Daniel Craig installment of the 007 franchise. So I'm going to try my best to keep this spoiler-free. We had the honor and the privilege of catching a pre-screening of this just a little bit before the general public. And, let's talk about it. I'm gonna try really hard not to give anything away. But we have director Cary Joji Fukunaga. We have writers Neil Purvis, Robert Wade, Cary Joji Fukunaga, who is also the director, and of course Daniel Craig, Ana de Armas,
Rami Malek,
Leah Seydoux, and Lashana Lynch.
Ralph Fiennes. A lot of people are in here.
Yeah,
Ralph Fiennes.
Oh, and also our buddy Christoph Waltz.
Who's
briefly. Back for briefly, but a fair amount,
Mm-hmm.
a fair amount. So what can I say about this? First of all, huge anticipation for this movie. I'm a big Bond fan.
Oh, yeah.
You're a big Bond fan.
Lots of money in this movie.
Huge money.
Lot.
Hey, we got to double check, but wasn't this for like $1 billion, like the budget on this? It was like $1 billion with a B, something.
Yeah, the budget was really insane.
It was huge.
It's just because you know what happened. This was actually shot in 2019. Then COVID happened and delayed this film, and now it's finally coming out.
Yeah, so we've been waiting a really, really long time, just like Top Gun Maverick and just like the Batman. Everything pushed way back because they were scared of not making their money.
I think this was pushed a few months. Like, wasn't it supposed to come out like a couple months ago?
I think this was supposed to come out like last November.
Well, yeah, in 2020, but then it got pushed again and then again.
Yeah,
but we're finally getting it.
Anyway, so finally got a chance to see this. First, let's talk about the positives. Then we'll talk about the negatives. And then we'll try to wrap it up with a few positives. So first of all, car chase in the beginning, super exciting.
Yeah.
Exactly what you'd expect from a Daniel Craig Bond movie. Over the top action, but everything
Great
that you
action.
want. The fight choreography in this, like 10 out of 10, as usual. Like just like absolutely crushed it.
I feel like Daniel Craig is like back now more than ever with like even like his fitness and everything, the way like you can tell he worked out really hard for this film.
Yeah, considering his age and everything, like this is like the most Bond he has felt in my mind since Skyfall. Like this was just like really, really top tier Daniel Craig, really giving it his all, and it showed. And the time and dedication it must have taken to choreograph some of those action sequences is just like it blows my mind.
Yeah.
So this was like Ethan Hunt level Craig.
Yeah,
Bond,
that's how I would like when I was watching this film. I hate to compare the two because like they're always they're separate things, but I always felt like I was like, this kind of like Mission Impossible, but it's James Bond.
Yeah, it's James Bond.
Over
but
the top.
There definitely was a
everything.
Mission Impossible flair, and I know that's intentional, but you'll see what I mean when you watch the movie. There's a little something that kind of reminds me of like Rogue Nation a little bit.
Yeah,
but elements, not too much, but elements. As far as the supporting cast, Bond girls were fine. I honestly, what's her name? Leah Seydoux, Madeline. She's okay. She kind of grew on me. She's a cutie.
Yeah, she grew on me too.
Lashana Lynch. I mean,
I enjoyed her.
I wasn't crazy about her. She wasn't terrible. I thought she was going to be a little bit worse, but she played the role.
Yeah,
she played the role.
Like I try to go in with no expectations when it came to her.
Yeah.
So like I know he was. You went with an expectations kind of with her, yeah.
It was hard not to.
Yeah,
I
agree. I agree because from the reports and everything, she was like the new Bond.
Yeah,
but I think she did fine. I enjoyed her.
She wasn't as overbearing as I was anticipating. I thought she was going to be like, "Get out of my way, man," and backhand Bond and kick him in the nuts.
Well, I was worried that woke Hollywood kind of would come in and take over the movie.
And I will say there was a bit of that, but I thought it was going to be way more over the top. It was still a Bond movie. Still a Bond movie, but you could definitely see the era in which it was made seeps in just a little bit where that nasty woke culture kind of pops its head up. But it never detracts too much from the movie.
It wasn't overbearing.
So it's still a Bond movie. And like I said, any tiny trace of wokeness or PC culture is very, very minimal.
Yeah, with the action and everything that was happening, it kind of like pulled you away from that.
Yeah, and Bond is still Bond. It's like it never detracts from him fully. No one overshadows him. It's still definitely a Daniel Craig movie. He's still like
he's a womanizer.
He's still a womanizer, which we love. And
does he drink a martini in this movie?
He does. Yeah, he still drinks. He still drinks. Still has a penchant for fine suits and fine cars and kicking ass.
Watching fireworks as usual.
Yes, but Yeah, as far as this one goes, I'm going to give... I mean, there were still elements that I didn't like, though. There were still some elements that I didn't like, and I don't want to spoil them for you guys because they're kind of specific. But it wasn't as good as Casino Royale. It was not as good as Quantum of Solace. It was not nearly as good as Skyfall. But I think I enjoyed it just as much as Spectre, if not a little bit more than Spectre.
Yeah, I mean, I like Spectre. A lot of people hate on it because I don't know why most. Like, I mean, for me, Spectre felt like a classic James Bond with gadgets and everything. But this one, I would say it's a good conclusion for Daniel Craig.
I wanted a little bit more, and like I said, there were a few parts of it that I didn't like, but any part where I was kind of like, this is getting kind of lame, would kind of turn me around with the giant climax at the end. It was just like way over the top, like amazing, like. No spoilers, trying hard not to. But the ending is freaking incredible.
Incredible.
Like, if there's two things I can say about this movie, I mean, obviously there's a lot of great action sprinkled throughout, but dude, that car chase in the beginning and that ending climax and just that whole team up sequence, like
the team up,
dude, really good, and kind of won me over.
Did you enjoy Rami Malek? Because I'm not a big fan of him because I think they just throw him in everything. I think he was all right in this film.
Not a fan. No, I think they threw him in just because it was really popular time after Bohemian Rhapsody.
His name in the movie is Lucifer Safan.
Yeah, and honestly, he wasn't in there that much. Like, if you look back, like, they were kind of sparing with his character. But he was no Christoph Waltz. He was no Javier Bardem. He, forgettable. I think in the grand scheme of things, a very forgettable Bond villain, honestly.
Yeah, I think... like I said, going back, just the action just made up for this film a lot.
Totally. And that's kind of how I was with to be honest with you, the last Mission Impossible, because I know these kind of go hand in hand in my mind.
In my mind,
very
too.
Similar.
I think we're both like that.
Yeah, and it's like, I love Mission Impossible, but the very last one that they did, was that Rogue Nation?
Rogue Nation, yeah.
Yeah, that was not my favorite Mission Impossible. I actually didn't like a lot of it. I thought parts of it kind of sucked. And the acting was really stilted. Henry Cavill's acting was just fucking horrible. But... the action was great. The skydiving sequences and everything like that. I'm like, oh, the action's wonderful. But everything else about it, I was like, this is not the best.
I feel like the Mission Impossible movies, this scripting is kind of weak. Like, they try to be funny. Did this movie have any sort of, like, jokes injected into it? Kind of bring some levity?
A little bit, yeah.
This one had a little bit more, I think, than the previous ones. Because the first three, Casino Royale aside, they were all a bit more dark. It was almost like... You know how Batman had gotten darker? Like, they had gone from, like, the Schumacher Batmans to the Nolan Batmans, and the Nolan Batmans were visibly darker and more real world. Yeah. That's what they did with the Bond movies. It was like the Brosnan movies were a little bit, they had action, but they were a little bit more lighthearted. And then the Craig era came in, and that's when you had Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and they were all much darker and intense and
then
heavy.
I felt like with Spectre, that's when they started added some a little bit more light to
and
it.
this one, it had some levity, but not too much. It's like they still joked around a little bit. There was still
good balance.
Yeah, there was the Bond cheesiness. There were a few funny jokes here and there where I'm like, oh, actually, Bond has a sense of humor. And some of his colleagues he was working with, I'm kind of like, oh, this is kind of like almost like Brosnan humor. But then it would go into like crazy, Land Rovers flipping and people getting shot up and glass breaking, and I'm like, okay, this is a healthy balance, definitely. So. Yeah, any negatives I have to say about No Time to Die, which are a few. It's not a perfect movie, but
yeah, go ahead.
It is visually amazing.
It's amazing. The only negative I have is it's a little long.
Yeah, I'm saying it's 2 hours and 43 minutes. I mean, Bond movies generally have good pacing, but
I got to go pee a few times.
A few times.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, 3 hours is pretty hard to fill up and keep people's attention.
Yeah, especially if you're sitting there.
I think they did good with the pacing.
That is the thing. It doesn't really lose its pacing too much. It's almost like trying to think of another good example. For me personally, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I thought was a perfectly paced movie, and that's like 2 hours and 35 minutes. Not to compare these two films because they're nothing alike. But in terms of pacing, for how long a movie this is, they did a good job. It really didn't have any lulls that really bored me. There were some longer scenes where he's like talking to Christoph Waltz's character.
Yeah, you could probably with him you could cut a little bit of him out of it.
Yeah, but he's such a good actor.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. We love Christoph Waltz.
Yeah, and then like anytime, let's say there's like at most like a 20 to 25 minute lull in the middle of the movie that's still very important to the story, and then very quickly action's injected. So it's like there's never a point where you're like, oh, I'm super bored. Like I said, there's some parts where you're kind of like, not crazy about that. That's not the Bond that I know and love. But then very quickly they fix it with a cool action scene. So I'm kind of like, all right, it works. So overall, out of the whole grand scheme of the Daniel Craig Bonds, this one, my heart is telling me a 3, but just because it's Daniel Craig's final one, I'm gonna give this a 3.5 out of 5 stars.
I'm giving this a 4.
Wow. Okay, so definitely check it out. I hope we didn't spoil anything for you guys. But please, if you like what you're seeing here, we're still a new channel. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, because we have a whole lot more content for you guys.
Yes, we do.
Coming soon. And also check out our previous videos, because we've been working very hard, and it would be nice to have an audience that could appreciate some no expectations content. So be kind.
Rewind.
And subscribe.
Thanks for watching, guys.
The name's Bond. James Bond.